Welcome to the Career Jiu-Jitsu podcast, where we connect the art of Jiu-Jitsu with your career. Our mission is to empower and inspire you with engaging conversations and valuable insights from people just like you who benefit from the shared relationship between your workplace and the art of Jiu-Jitsu, leading you to a more fulfilling and successful life. Welcome to the Career Jiu-Jitsu podcast. We have an awesome guest today. It is Rob Breyer. Rob Breyer is a sergeant at a local jail. So he is a corrections officer, and he is going to connect the art of jiu-jitsu to his job as a corrections officer. So welcome, Rob.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be a part of your podcast. I'm excited.
We're not as excited as we are because we know that our listeners are dying to know what life behind bars is like without having to go there, right?
Yes.
So now we have the
Yes.
inside scoop. So why don't we just start off with a little bit about your background? How did you get into being a correction officer? How long have you done it?
Okay, so I became a CO, which is correctional officer. I became a CO about 9 years ago. I was just out of college, and just like everyone else that typically becomes a CO, they become a CO as a stepping stone to become police or a Fed or just a job experience. It happens with me that, after a year or so at my job, I really enjoyed it. I enjoy the guys I work with. And 9 years later, I'm still here, and it's going to be my full-time career. And it's just a job that I've enjoyed doing. It's an interesting job. It's a unique job. And the guys I work with, it's a lot of camaraderie over there in that field. So
It's like a family.
yeah,
So what ended up getting you into jiu-jitsu? Why did you get into it? When did you get into it?
I got into jiu-jitsu when masks were a thing in COVID. So 2020-ish, 2021-ish,
Okay.
I think. And originally with jiu-jitsu, my dad actually got me a membership here for 3 months. He was like, "Hey, I know you like doing stuff. There's a gym down the road from you. Here's 3 months." I was like, "Cool." So
We haven't heard that before.
right. It was totally random. I wasn't, just a
So
random
you
gift.
didn't come here really on your own volition. Somebody gave you a gift. You're like, "Oh, I'll try."
Honestly, I didn't know this place was here. It's like
Wow.
back this was again back in 2020 or so.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it was winter time. I hate sitting around doing nothing. My dad was like, "Here you go." So I came here. I was like, "Dude, this is fun. Like, this is just something. It's something to do." And then with my job, it's something that actually, it's like an investment for my job as well. Like it's such a great skill to have. So that's how I got really involved with BJJ. Was
And-
a random Christmas present.
So that's great.
Yeah.
So when you first came here, you didn't know any jiu-jitsu.
Nothing. So in our academy, we have a 1 week of self-defense.
Oh, the 1 week.
A 1 week
We hear this with all
self-defense.
these law enforcement, right?
Yeah,
Well, how
people
do
that
you
need
give
it.
1 week? That's like giving a pilot 1 week of flying lessons and saying, "Here's your."
Here you go.
Yeah,
That is
people that
great.
need it the most get it the less,
That
at least.
it's ironic, definitely.
Yes.
So when you came in, what did you feel like? Were you nervous? Was it hard? Were you like, "Oh my gosh, this stuff is crazy"? What did you feel?
When I first came in, I was excited and just like naturally nervous because I didn't know anyone. But that's just natural. And then at the end of that first class, I was shocked. I was like, I never knew someone could be so dangerous on their back.
Yeah, right.
Like just like choked out 10 times, tapped out 10 times. It's like, this is wild. I got devastated
By
but
people that
I'm
half your size too, right?
yeah, half the size. I think Frank was there probably, and I was like, wow, that was just wild seeing what he did to me.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Rob's like he's a good sized guy and he's in great physical condition. So he's a tough individual. And for him to say that, it means
just
something.
just wild. My first time here, my first week here, and still today, Jason will teach a move, and it'll be like, even now, I didn't see that coming like that.
Yeah.
But it's so cool.
Yeah. And it makes it fun, right?
Oh yeah.
So how does that apply to your job, Rob? Like, now that you've learned jujitsu and how long has it been? Like 5 years, you said?
Yeah, 5 years. I took
Yeah.
some chunks off
Yeah.
for
So
babies and
yeah,
whatnot.
so like you've got a significant amount of jujitsu
Yep.
experience now. So how
Yep.
does that help you in your job? Like, can you talk about that a little bit?
Confidence is
Okay.
really what stands out the most. Because at my jail in Massachusetts, there's a huge focus on using force, but not overdoing what you have to do. And jiu-jitsu just gives you so much control with your body and the other guy's body, and just the confidence it gives me when any time in the jail there's an aggressive inmate or any type of incident that could go down south quick. I'm confident that I can at the very least protect myself, and in a lot of cases protect the guys I'm with in case things really do go south.
So you were talking a little bit about altercations, like when we were just rolling before, about
Yep.
altercations, and tell us a little bit about that when two inmates are having a fight and what the protocol is and how you guys handle that
Just the
and
dynamic
how
of
jujitsu could help you or has helped you in those specific situations.
yeah. So typically when there's a fight in a jail, we're essentially trained to make sure that we have the bodies to take control back of the situation. So if it's two inmates fighting, like I showed you, 90% of the time, it's head down, flailing their arms, and after 10 to 20 seconds, both of them are wiped out, and we take control of that. Once in a while, you'll see one inmate just getting pounded out by another guy. That's when jiu-jitsu comes in real good handiness, and you just control the other guy's body. A lot of times we'll have backup within 10 to 20 seconds, but if it's you and just surrounded by inmates, you want to make sure you can take control of one of the inmates while keeping your head up and looking around you, because there's a
Right.
lot of gang mentality in jails and whatnot. So if they see an officer taking one of their guys, there's a good chance that a lot more inmates could be coming.
Are a majority of the fights amongst each other?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. There are staff assaults. In my 9-year career, there's been a small handful of very bad staff assaults, but a lot of times it'll be like a cheap sucker punch to the face, and then the officers just kind of swarm the guy. But there's been probably two or three where it's been a very cheap sucker punch, but connection was made, and that's why I love jiu-jitsu, because it teaches you to fight on your back, like as if you just got like sucker punch and fall back. If you're on your back and you don't know how to fight from that position, you're in trouble in a jail.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So how do like when there's an altercation, and are you able to like at first you watch to see, like you give it a few seconds to see
Yep.
what's happening among with the two of them, like two of them, for example,
Yep.
right? And then you kind of wait to see where it's going to go. Like, when do you step in? Is there
Once if they keep going, we step in. If it keeps going and it's like an evenly matched brawl, we'll step in once we have enough bodies to safely and honestly kind of easily secure the situation.
hey,
Right. And you were saying that you guys can't see, but he was saying most of the fights, the guys put their heads down and just
Heads down.
randomly do windmill punches back and forth, and in
Right.
20 minutes they're tired.
In
people
20
who
seconds, yeah.
yeah, sorry, 20
Yeah.
seconds. And the people who say I see red are like
Yes.
they're very easy to handle after they
Right.
swing their fist randomly.
A lot of times they'll want to be detained because they're just
They're just
exhausted.
they're done.
Yes.
So a question for you. Jason, we've talked to police officers, right? And they have a lot of like, you can't put your knee on their back. You have to put your knee on their hip. You can't put any pressure on the neck. Do you have the same restraints as police officers, or do you have a little more latitude in what jujitsu moves can like? Can you grab somebody in a chokehold? Can you put your knee on their back? Or are they like absolutely not? Knee on hip, no neck, only controlling underhooks and things like that.
Yeah, so typically the general rule is chokes are a big no-no. That's in a lot of states. Massachusetts is one of them. If something was happening and a chokehold was just there and reasonable, and it'll reduce a lot of future fighting or
Damage,
whatever.
right? Damage
You
control.
right. You wouldn't lose your job, but you'd have to justify in when you type up what happened, because in a jail everything's on camera. So if someone lands in a choke, you're not going to lose your job. You will get spoken to.
And they'll want to see the
You
justification of it.
you'll have to justify it.
Right. So you have similar
Very
rules, but
very similar.
maybe a little bit more lax.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. But in general, if you can avoid a choke in Massachusetts, you have to avoid the choke in
Right.
Massachusetts.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I think we should do more to protect our people protecting us. But
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you need to, if you need to get home, you want to go home to see your family.
That's the big
Sometimes
thing.
but the beauty is, if you have jujitsu, you probably can do something else. You could probably get an underhook. You could probably do knee on belly,
Right.
right knee on hip. There's a
Yep.
lot of technique that you could use that you learn in the gym
So much.
that you can apply.
Yep.
So when they you mentioned earlier about inmates' lives being very routine
Yep.
and being the same thing every day, and you try to mix up their routine sometimes, but for the most part it's routine,
Yep.
so the life kind of becomes what you call, I think the word you used was
Mundane.
mundane,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So because of that, you mentioned that sometimes if their routine gets thrown off, they end up fighting over things that you know isn't really a normal thing to be fighting over. And so those things happen. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So basically, picture if in your life you woke up and you knew exactly what was going to happen, when it was going to happen, and you couldn't control it.
Yeah.
If the smallest thing happens to you, you might throw a punch just to switch things up. And I think a lot of times the inmates will fight just because it switches things up.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have a ton in a jail. Whether they have too much or not enough is a different thing. But they, if someone if someone finds out that someone stole from them, there's going to be a fight, because in jail it might be a honey bun, but that's your honey bun.
Right.
That's
Right.
Right. We were talking about that on the mats, and
Right.
saying like, Rob was saying like, jail is very strict. So if you have your tray and that's your meal and you drop it, you might not get another meal because they don't always have another meal. They'll try to help you if
Right.
they can. So I said, like, if you're sitting at the table, is there any time where like a brawny guy comes up and just says, "That's my soup"?
Hmm.
And he said, "Yeah, people do that."
Mm-hmm.
So I asked him, like, what would you do in that situation? Why don't you answer to our listeners? Like, how do inmates deal with somebody coming over and saying, "I had my soup, but now your soup is mine"?
Yeah.
And they're maybe a bigger person or a rougher person or a person in the gang.
Yep. So the guy taking the food, he would be disciplined. He would probably get lugged from that unit and go to the hole, which is just a disciplinary unit where they have less privileges essentially. But in that moment, there's nothing stopping one inmate from taking another guy's food, chucking to the ground, and now you're down a tray. We can call the kitchen, see if they have any extras made, but if they don't, they're not gonna make a whole other meal for one guy when they've just made 800 trays. So it's one of those things where it's like, I feel for you, but I'll do all I can right now. But
And do
you know,
people need to like like if I'm sitting there having my soup and some guy comes over and takes my soup, if I don't do something, he's going to do that tomorrow.
right?
So a lot of time, and you can't really, you can snitch. Like I can go find you
Yeah,
and say, Rob, this guy just took my soup, but now that's not good either,
yeah,
right? Because I'm a snitch.
Mm.
So a lot of times you have to throw a punch.
yeah. But now, and with that kind of same mindset, that's also a part of my job is to see things like that and intervene without creating that rat atmosphere from the inmates on inmates. So
Right.
if I see an inmate just straight up steal from the other inmate, I'll take care of that myself.
Right.
And that way, the inmate that got stolen from, he doesn't have to put himself in a situation where he's either not getting fed because he's being bullied type thing, or he's just not able to do anything. Like if I see something happening, that is my job. I do have to intervene and stuff
Right.
like that.
Right. Now, for people in the jail, right, for convicts
Yep.
that do martial arts, do they have a cachet about them? Do people respect that? Or what is it like for the people who are known to be boxers, jiu-jitsu artists,
Yep.
MMA people?
So, you figure in 800 inmates, there's not going to be a lot of those people, but there are some people that, oh, that inmate, he was a semi-pro boxer, Um, they, if someone's a semi-pro boxer, you're going to know that guy's a semi-pro boxer. And also with inmates, it's usually not someone's first time in jail. So probably, in the past at some point, he probably did beat someone up pretty good. But from what I do notice is those inmates, they're not the ones that start the fights. They'll
Obviously, right? People who know martial arts are never the people who start the fight.
right. It's sometimes in gang situations they'll, back up their gangs, but a lot of times the ones that actually know how to fight, they only fight when they are provoked to do it.
And it doesn't happen often.
It doesn't happen often, but when they do, you know about it.
It's tap-in time, your favorite time of the program where we tap into your thoughts. Any listeners here in law enforcement, maybe you're a CO or even a bouncer or somebody who has to really de-escalate dangerous situations. Our question to you is, do you find some similarities to what Rob is talking about? Has jiu-jitsu helped you in your career with de-escalation? Let us know your stories. We can't wait to hear from you.
So Rob, do you have any like very interesting, I know this is like a spontaneous question, but do you have any spontaneous stories or circumstances that you can give to our listeners about any incidents that may have happened that were that are very interesting that you had to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, in a jail, pretty much any wild thing that you can think of has probably happened on some level. We've had people cover themselves in their own feces and cover their rooms in their own feces. We'll have guys that cut up with anything and everything. Um, I don't want to, I'll keep this PG rated, but they'll put things in areas of their bodies just to go out to a hospital and get out of the jail.
God.
It's
Yeah.
it's pretty much anything and everything. It's
Yeah.
and honestly, like my first year or two, it was like a shock factor seeing that. Now, if
Yeah.
it's just kind of
Right. Yeah,
routine to me.
it's the things that you see and that you hear, your ability to stay calm, and also I think we talked earlier about awareness and about how you can recognize when an inmate is agitated,
Yes,
or they start to, you can kind of see it. And like, can you talk a
it's
little bit about think like warning signs that you kind of look out for to know that something's gonna possibly happen here? Because
yep,
with inmates, I'm assuming like psychology is really important. Their mental state is
yeah,
really important. So
yes.
can you talk a little bit about how you would handle, or how you would see those things and then handle them?
Absolutely. So a lot of times you'll have some type of gang dynamic on most blocks, and if in gangs, people enter gangs, people leave gangs, people get kicked out of gangs, and in so for example, in a jail atmosphere, if you see everyone step out of their cells and they're wearing shoes instead of flip flops, the shoes give them better grip. So, it gives them grip. Gives
Interesting.
so just the small stuff like that. And when you hear just audio levels, like, because it's all like in a big area, typically when all the inmates are out, and you have your base level for like audio. When that level gets higher and higher, it's just a sign that someone's slowly getting more and more agitated. And then the questions come to mind, like, why is he being agitated? What's going on? What's going to happen? And it's just those signs like that at this point it's just second nature to me. But when I train recruits when they're in the academy, I'll point that out to them, and it's kind of that same reaction, like, ooh, that's interesting. I didn't think of that. And if an inmate's on a phone call, like with a loved one, and then he starts raising his voice, he's not raising his voice because he's getting great news. He's raising his voice because his loved one's like, hey, I'm not putting money on your books this week or something like that, So
Right.
it's just, I think audio levels like that is a big telltale sign that something's about to
It's
happen.
just such a fascinating culture. Like you could probably write a book about it. So one question for you about jujitsu and your job. In jujitsu, you have to stay composed. You have to stay composed.
Yes.
You have to breathe. You can't panic when things are going crazy in jujitsu, or you're gonna tap, right?
Yep.
Do you feel that your jiu-jitsu training has translated to a little bit more of composure
Oh,
and
so
being
much.
relaxed in your job and looking
Absolutely.
and thinking before you act?
Yes. Just, ju- pretty much just like you said, in jiu-jitsu, when someone's on top of you, it's easy to push and push and push and breathe and go and go. But if you forget to breathe, you're gonna die.
Right.
um,
Simple breathing.
and it's just taking that second to think about, all right, this is happening. This is how I need to react.
Mm.
And that's honestly kind of every second on the job, because it really does go from 0 to 60 at my job. It's
Mm.
going back to how mundane it is. At any second, inmate could start cutting up. They could start fighting. There's hangings a lot of, not a lot of times, but quite often. So it's one of those things, like, even when you walk in and you just see someone kind of, hanging or like cutting up, the natural reaction is like, oh my God. But it's kind of like, take that deep breath, call it in, and go from there.
Right.
So with like de-escalation, right?
Yep.
So verbal de-escalation. So you noticing somebody becoming agitated, for example, and you know that something's potentially going to happen there. Um, can you talk? Can you help our listeners understand a little bit about how you can relate your that what you've gotten through jujitsu, you've been able to, like Frank said, stay composed. You've been able to stay calm under pressure.
Yep.
And how does that help you with negotiation, with verbal de-escalation? I think you mentioned something about like a lot of times an inmate will like raise their voice and start
Yeah.
getting upset, and you're trying to get them to comply with something. And if you just go right for compliance right away with them,
Yep.
it doesn't work.
Right.
So you were saying that you have some tactics that you use to help get them to comply without really going for it right away.
Right.
And so can you talk about how that is in your job and how that relates to your jujitsu training?
Absolutely. So in jiu-jitsu, to pass a guard, you begin with the feet, work your way up to the knees, then the hips. It's a process. And if you go for a submission when you're in someone's full guard, it's not going to happen. That's the same way with verbal de-escalation in a jail. If you hear someone yelling and crying and screaming, and you go up to him and you just go, hey, calm down, go back to your cell, he's going to tell you to go kick rocks. So in the same sense in jiu-jitsu, how there's a process and you can't skip steps. That's the same with de-escalation. So like step one would be approach the inmate with a calm demeanor. You can't de-escalate someone if your escalation is even higher than his. So by having that calm voice and that calm demeanor, at the very least, it keeps the door open to have a chance to de-escalate the situation.
You're giving him that positive out too, right? Giving him that out.
Gives him that out. Because if you scream at someone that's already screaming, he's going to scream back. If you calmly approach someone and go, hey, what's going on? He might still scream at you, but he can also tell you what's going on. And from there, it goes into, sympathizing with him and then building a rapport with the guy. And then ultimately in this kind of training, you want, the submission would be gaining compliance in a sense.
Yeah, and being an active listener, right?
Active listening is huge. It's pretty much self-explanatory, but active listening is a skill that has disappeared over the years with all the phone use and social media and
short attention span.
A lot of times they just want to vent, right? They just want to like get out what they want, their frustrations, and then sometimes it's
they just listen,
like you said, they kind of figure it out on their own, right?
Yes,
when they're done, it's like they're done feeling their red, right?
Yes,
done with that. So that's a nice analogy there.
Yep.
So I just have a question that has nothing to do with jiu-jitsu, but I bet you my listeners are dying to know this. So, not that my listeners are going to jail. Hopefully none of my listeners are going to jail. But it's really interesting. Like if somebody were going to jail, like
they could be listening to this in jail.
They could be listening to this. What are like a few survival like the people who make it through without a lot of problems, they're just well adjusted, they survive, versus the people who just have a hell experience getting bullied, getting their ass kicked, getting food thrown on them, whatever. What are some of the basic rules and that kind of culture that makes somebody a good survivor?
Don't owe people stuff.
Wow.
That's
okay. So don't borrow anything. Don't ask for favors.
Right. If you don't have a ramen soup in your cell, then you're not going to eat a ramen soup that night.
Really? What happens? Like I go to my neighbor, I'm like, "Yo, bruh, I'm starving. You've got ramen." But
man, I'll give you one if you give me 2 next week.
All right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. And then, your baby mama, she doesn't put money on your books, so now you can't buy noodles.
And now you
owe that guy 2 noodles, and you have no noodles.
Is it seriously like down to that? Is it really about ramen noodles?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's
like that.
That's the life in jail.
That's crazy. So don't bum a ramen noodle.
Right.
Don't say. What else would people borrow from people? Money or like?
Well, it's not really. So money in jail is food. It's like.
Do they do the cigarettes thing still? Like
there's no smoking in jail now. That's
so the cigarette currency market is dead.
That's
that
gone.
stigma's gone, Frank. Borrow cigarettes and get in a fight. It's gone.
Wow. So it's ramen noodles.
Now it's ramen noodles.
It's noodles and honey buns. Honey buns, baby.
Give me your honey buns.
So like with all that, right? So you have to like all of your staff have to all deal with these things, right?
Yep.
So how do you communicate with your staff? Like I'm assuming you have to have good communication, good teamwork. Like if you hear an inmate say something, you have to, and you may not be near that inmate anymore. So you may have to go somewhere else. So you have to tell your other staff member what happened there, right?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming like teamwork really comes into play a lot in your job because numbers is power. If there's a fight or an inmate gets agitated and starts attacking a staff member, you have to have other staff members around.
That's what we rely on.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about teamwork in among your staff and how you guys work that out? And then, second part to that question is, can you relate some of that teamwork that you have as a staff in the jail, and can you relate that to some of the teamwork that you have on the mats with your training partners?
Yeah. So, I mean, for the jail, like you said, you have to communicate the issues, you have to communicate what's going on, and it's a lot of times in jiu-jitsu it's the same thing. If you're rolling with someone or training with someone, and if there's something specifically you want to work on, if you communicate it, it's a team. In jiu-jitsu, everyone you train with is a team. At work, everyone's a team there. So ultimately, everyone's everyone's goal is to win as a team.
Mhm.
So whatever the communication may be, it's to make your team better, it's to make your team more efficient. Here at Team Link, we use communication all the time to help each other on our weaknesses, to make our strengths even stronger. It's the same out of jail.
And you have a leadership role in your staff.
Yeah. So I'm a sergeant.
So I think you mentioned earlier about how you relate that to jujitsu in the sense that when you train your staff, when you talk to your staff and you help your staff with things,
Yep.
by helping them, it actually helps you.
Oh yeah.
And same
Yep.
thing on the mats. When you help somebody with a technique, it actually helps you break it down in detail so you can learn it too.
Yes. Yep.
So does that that relates to? Can you talk about?
There's a huge relation there. It's because someone that's brand new has a totally unique perspective than what you have accumulated over the years. So you might become almost numb to small details, whether it's in the jail or in jiu-jitsu, and all it takes is that brand new person to be like, what about this? And you're like, oh, right, yeah. That's so actually, if you pass and he has to go here to block the hip,
Right.
and at the jail it's what about this, and it's like, oh yeah, that actually shouldn't be open right now, or it's something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
And
and
on
it
the-
helps you. It helps you.
Oh
When you
yeah,
teach,
it's
you're like, oh yeah,
when-
that's why we do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
the teaching makes you a great student.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and everybody on the mats has certain strengths and weaknesses, you know.
Yeah.
Like Frank, you know, his guard pass is amazing. Like,
Yes, I
appreciate that.
nobody can stop him from
Listen up,
passing.
listen.
So, you know, because of those different strengths and weaknesses of jujitsu practitioners, right?
Yep.
You mentioned at one point when we were talking earlier about how there's strengths and weaknesses in your staff. So some people are good at some things, whereas they're not as good at other things.
Yeah.
So does that relate to jujitsu?
Yeah, so that's actually a different team that I'm on with crisis negotiations, and basically we have assigned roles over there. Like, we'll actually deal with negotiations in Worcester County, not just in the jail, but like throughout the county of Worcester. And we'll basically, if there's the hostage situation, we'll have one person assigned to speaking, someone else assigned to information gathering, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, you might have someone who's very good at top game, but not so great on bottom game. And to get better, you have to ask for help. And everyone in jiu-jitsu, they're always willing to help you. And that's what makes you stronger each and every day at jiu-jitsu, is working on those weaknesses. And even if you get just a little bit better at it that day, you're getting better at a weakness.
Have you applied that in your job with staff? Like, have you noticed that you've been able to improve your staff's abilities, you know, giving them a broader range of
Yes.
skills because you've been able to train them in things that they're not so good at, and it's given them a broader range of skills?
Yes. Specifically with some older officers who have a quick temper because they've been there for so long. It's, you kind of teach them or show them, start down here on the escalation scale instead of jumping right up there.
Mhm.
And it just makes your job and your shift go a lot easier when you kind of don't escalate right away.
And it's same on the mats, frankly, when people have weaknesses and you help them with things, all of a sudden, like a year later, you're like, I remember when your guard game really sucked, but now it's amazing.
Now you're killing it, right? Now I can't. Now I can't get by it. Yeah, yeah. It's a great.
Just get a little
It's a
bit better.
great, you know, in jiu-jitsu, the karma comes back to you. You help somebody, but it does come back to you in that way. Like, I'm happy you're doing great, but I'm not happy that you're so hard to deal with now.
Yeah.
Right?
You're
Right.
getting really good.
You make my life difficult. Welcome. Right?
Although a little bit different in the sense that with your staff, if you're making somebody better at it,
Yeah, there's no negative karma there.
they're working
You
towards
don't-
them.
yeah.
It goes back to the team dynamic of
yeah.
we want to get better as a
Yeah.
team.
There's no backstep
Absolutely.
on that.
Well, this has been awesome, Rob.
Yeah.
No, this has been great.
This is so cool.
So-
I could talk to you forever about this, and I'm sure our listeners would love to. We're gonna have you back on the show and just get more detail about what it's like behind the bars, and it's just so interesting,
Yeah.
right? The culture and what you've learned and how jiu-jitsu has helped you. What a great conversation. We knew it would be. We knew it would be. So I have a couple of takeaways for you here. some of the things that I took away. First of all, I just like the story that somebody gave you jiu-jitsu as a present and it has changed your life. So any listeners out there, wherever you are in the United States, we have listeners all over the world now, right?
Yeah.
Different cultures.
We have 25 different countries, Frank.
We're in 25 countries. Thank you, everybody. Gracias. Muchas gracias. So give somebody the present of jiu-jitsu. Give them a 1 month, wherever you are, a 1 month pass to jiu-jitsu. You'll change their life and they'll never forget you for it. I like that. Number 2, you talked about family and teamwork. There's no doubt in your job, you need that. You work on that. You work on your weaknesses. There's somebody else who has a strength that's your weakness. Same exact thing in jiu-jitsu. That's a perfect coalescence of those two things. You talked about confidence, and everybody we've had on this show has talked about confidence. Jiu-jitsu just makes you a more confident person in every single thing you do. It's a fact. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
I like that you talked about composure, breathing, thinking, which led you into this beautiful allegory, parallel of passing guard and verbal de-escalation. I just thought that was the coolest poetic parallel of when you pass guard. And Jason always tells us first, control their legs, then go up, control their hips. Now that you have their hips, do your knee cut or whatever. Now control their arms. Now you just backstep and you're all set. You said the same exact thing with your procedures of how you go in and deal with an irate person. This is just good general knowledge for anybody, but it also shows how everything we do is procedural, and doing jiu-jitsu helps you be a better procedural person and not skip ahead because of emotions. So I think you just encapsulated that beautifully. I got a lot from this. I know our listeners got a lot from this. And so thank you so much for coming here. I know you've got a busy life and you came here. We got a couple of rolls in. We had some fun and then we did this interview. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
And just one more last thing, Frank. We want our listeners to start sharing our podcast a little more.
Help us.
So we
help you.
Yeah, right, exactly.
We give you love. Give us love back. Just share this with somebody you think that will like it. Because it's so much fun. We have a software that shows us who's listening and where, and we get so excited. We got one from Spain. We got one from Singapore. Ooh, Dudley, that's my town. I'm taking credit for that. Show us some love, and you know we love you back. All right, take care, everybody.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you. That was great.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. As we wrap up today's episode, let's take a moment to reflect on the powerful connections we've explored between the art of jiu-jitsu and your career. In your workplace and in jiu-jitsu, you learn to adapt and navigate challenges. So remember that persistence and the courage to embrace the lessons that you learn are the keys to your growth both on the mat and in your career.